Hey, what's up? Zach here. And these are my top 7 favorite basketball shoes for indoor hardwood courts for winter 2023. Here we go. And with hardwood courts having such unique properties, allowing you to get a little bit more creative underfoot, you really need to be able to feel that court really well. And that's why this video is sponsored by Move and the Game Day and Game Day Pro Orthotics, because I really think these inserts have some properties that lend themselves really well to indoor courts, but more on them later. Now, there are a few key points you got to think about when comparing an indoor hardwood court to an asphalt or concrete court. Number one is just the physical structure of the court itself. Remember, most NBA floors and college floors are made of hard maple, which has a really tight graining in it. And that tight graining makes it strong enough, number one, to withstand a WNBA or NBA or college player on it all the time, just pounding their feet on it constantly. And number two, the basketball just wouldn't be able to bounce high enough to be able to dribble it efficiently. Now, number two, hard maple also has enough flex in it to allow it to be pretty forgiving and also give a little bit of rebound and reverb. But also underneath of that hardwood floor is a subflooring usually made of a cushioning system or sometimes just plywood. But no matter what it is, it gives enough space in there to allow that wood to flex back and forth. And that's what gives it so much forgiveness. And that's what gives it a lot of differences than asphalt or concrete, because asphalt or concrete does not give whatsoever. So a shoe on an outdoor asphalt court has to be a lot more stout, has to have a lot better cushioning than something on an indoor hardwood court. But the other big difference comes in what's on top of that surface, which is that polyurethane coating, which allows a shoe to grip with a lot less rubber versus an outdoor asphalt or concrete court, which usually you need much wider rubber on there to kind of lay traction down, just like a car tire would. Whereas on an indoor hardwood court, you can get those really fine treads to get that really pinpoint grip. And so with those differences in mind, that brings me to number 7 shoe, which is the Adidas Dawn Issue 4. And to be honest, the Dawn Issue probably wouldn't make it close to a top 5 or 7 list for outdoor shoes. But on an indoor hardwood court, number one, the rubber is so nice and gripping on there, but light enough underfoot to where you can get to the next step easy enough. But the light strike, that's the full bed of foam underneath of there, does give you such easy and nimble footwork on an indoor hardwood court. However, you put an orthotic in these, you are getting a super elite shoe, but also in a budget price. And coming in at number 6 is a shoe that, yeah, I can't see why you'd ever use it on an asphalt or concrete court, but for hardwood, it is just elite, and that is the Curry Flow 10. Now, the Curry Flow 10 has just a stamped foam outsole tread, which is made of those Alephin block copolymers, so it has a ton of elasticity and bounce to it, but also on an indoor court, this kind of stamped, almost wavy type pattern really sinks into that urethane and interacts with that polyurethane. It just gives it such a great nimble grip on an indoor court, but also because of that longer shank in the forefoot of the shoe, it has enough pop on its own that no matter if you're playing on a pretty warped indoor court or a really new and bouncy indoor court, you're gonna get a ton of quick and easy launch off of these. So for an indoor hardwood court, you know, in terms of being able to get a shot off really quick, kind of like Steph Curry does, these are just an unreal pickup. And coming in at number 5, I know I'm probably gonna get some heat for this in the comments. However, on an indoor court, I found these to be absolutely lethal, and that was the Jordan 37. Now, to be honest, on an outdoor court, the Jordan 37 kind of felt a little bit dull, didn't really have a lot of life to it. However, on an indoor hardwood court, it was a completely different story. The grip of the rubber was just elite on these. Number 2, the push off on them on an indoor hardwood court, it's almost like they brought their own launch to the table. So on an indoor hardwood court, if you're looking for a shoe that's really stout underfoot that can perform on hardwood that is lively, but also hardwood that might be a little bit too shock absorbing, the Jordan 37 is really a shoe that you can go to battle with. Now, I know with the Leno weave and Grant Williams busting through his in the NBA, however, then it kind of came out a little later. The shoelaces were tied a little bit looser. And number 2, I doubt most of us are playing with the intensity and the force that Grant Williams is, just kind of barreling down an NBA court. So I think for the vast majority of us, the Jordan 37 is fine. I know for me, on hardwood, these things were just awesome. Now, coming in at number 4 is one of the most fun shoes I've tested since starting this channel. It is one of my personal favorites and just has some of the craziest pop and launch I've ever seen in a shoe, and that is the Leaning JB1. Now, typically the foot doctor side of me does not love drop-in midsoles. However, with how contoured the drop-in is on the JB1, the plantar carbon fiber shank, as well as all the containment in the heel as well as laterally in the JB1, as well as how low the drop-in actually sits in the shoe, shoe. These give the creativity and the playability of a really nimble drop-in shoe, but also the containment of more of a maximalist shoe. Plus, they're one of the bounciest shoes I've ever put on my foot, and that is really saying something for a drop-in midsole shoe. The launch on these is just incredible. Number one, from first step, but number two, if you're trying to get a jump shot up over somebody's head. Now, the outsole tread on these is similar to the Curry line. It is more of a foam compound, so they are gonna wear down really quick on an outdoor asphalt or concrete court. I actually found their playability to be really good on outdoor asphalt or concrete, but on an indoor hardwood court it is absolutely elite. So the grip on these may take about 2 to 3 minutes to warm up on that indoor court. However, once they do warm up, this shoe can just create so much violent footwork and violent jump force that you'd just really be surprised what you can do in these. Now, coming in at number 3 is also a Li-Ning signature, and that is the Li-Ning CJ1. And these are a more recent reviewed shoe of mine. However, I did notice with these on indoor hardwood courts, because they are a little bit heavier, they give the shoe a little bit more of a stout feel underfoot, but because they're made of an Aleph & Co polymer in the midsole foam, they also give a ton of bounce and a ton of reverb in the shoe. So even for a shoe that has a lot of lockdown and kind of a lot more of a maximalist feel on it, on those indoor courts, the foam is really allowed to come alive. The grip is allowed to really dig into that polyurethane. Given it has a grid stamp built into the rubber on it, it is able to interact with that polyurethane better than any shoe I have ever tested. So if you're looking for grip, but also more of a maximalist shoe on an indoor hardwood court, these are really fantastic. And coming in at number 2 is a shoe that I've kind of gone back and forth with a little bit. I've loved it at times and I've had my issues with it at times. However, that is the Nike KD15. Now, the KD15 for me has been one of the fastest indoor shoes, best gripping indoor shoes, as well as liveliest indoor shoes in the market. Now, the one thing that I don't love about these on outdoor courts is that the shank is serrated here and it's bottom loaded. So they're not gonna last as long on an outdoor asphalt or concrete court. However, on indoor hardwood, a little bit more forgiveness. That foam is gonna last a lot longer, and it's also gonna give you a lot more pop and bounce for longer. Now, the containment on these I think is tremendous because the laces actually go through the side paneling on here. And that combined with these really thin treads here in this topographical map pattern gives this shoe so much stopping and pivoting power on indoor hardwood courts that you can really get speed going side to side or front to back. Whereas in the KD14, side to side speed and containment was really its bag. Whereas in the 15s, you get that side to side containment, but also the front to back speed. So I think on the right surface, these are really elite. It's just if you're playing in these on outdoor asphalt or concrete courts, yeah, you can get the XDR rubber on these and the rubber will last you a lot longer. It's just the midsole foam might start bottoming out on you. Whereas on those indoor courts, those issues aren't as bad. And if you are looking to play with a shoe like the KD15 and are worried about that midsole bottoming out on you, it is a good idea to throw a pair of orthotics in them to shield that midsole foam, make it last a little bit longer, give it a little more liveliness. And that's what brings me to today's sponsor, which is Move Orthotics. Now, the reason I like the profile of the Game Day Pro and the Game Day for midsole shielding in shoes like the KD15 is that they are so low profile in the shoe. So if you are someone in the KD15 that was having heel slipping issues on them, you can throw a pair of Game Day Pros in there and your foot isn't gonna sit super high in the shoe. Because of the geometry of the heel cup in these and how it's a little bit more squared off here on the top, but also rounded on the bottom with a little bit of a cutout here, your heel is allowed to sit so far down in the shoe, but also get this really nice stout arch support in these. Plus, they're made to measure. So remember, if you buy a size 11 in a Move Game Day and buy a pair of 11s in a KD15 or any other shoe, they're going to fit 1-to-1. So when you're using them, they much more feel like they're part of the shoe. Now remember, the Game Days come in 2 versions, the Game Day Pro as well as the Game Days. Game Day Pro, obviously a little more stout arch support. The Game Days, a little bit more of an insole replacement, a little bit more midsole shielding, a little bit more minimalist. If you do want to see the differences on both these, kind of a comparison, I do have a video that I will link down below. As well as you want to pick up a pair of either of these, I will leave a link in the description below for that as well. Thanks again to Move for sponsoring this video, and off to the number 1 shoe. Now, my number 1 shoe for hardwood courts combines a lot of the best features of a lot of the other shoes on this list. It has the speed and nimbleness of the KD15. It has the stout play of the CJ1. It's got the grip of the Curry Flow 10 or JB1 or CJ1 as well, but it also just has that stout feeling underfoot like the Jordan 37 does, kind of all in one package, and that is the Anta KT8. Now, the KT8 is by far the most rugged indoor shoe you can buy. The midsole foam on it is just made of, well, number one, legitimate ballistic materials. But number 2, a molded carbon fiber shank in the heel of the shoe, which goes all the way up here into the forefoot. So you're getting kind of a springboard leaflet as well. And what that does is it allows the shoe to kind of create its own diving board effect. So no matter if you're on really dead hardwood or really lively hardwood. They also have such crazy containment in the uppers with the stitch paneling here on both sides, kind of resembling these fish scales. The grip on these, yeah, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes to warm up. However, after it does warm up, once again, the grip on them is just unreal. So you're looking for the shoe that has the ultimate in speed, rugged side-to-side containment, but also its really own diving board inside the shoe. The KT8 is just really amazing. It doesn't really matter what indoor surface you're putting these on, rubberized, carpet, really dull hardwood or really lively hardwood, you're gonna get a really consistent playing profile from them because they kind of do everything internally for you. So I think with everything the KT8 brings to the table, yeah, it's not a perfect shoe, but it's as close as any you're gonna get right now. And making these top shoe lists is getting harder and harder because there are just so many good shoes out there. And remember, not every shoe is good for everybody. Everybody has something unique that they bring to the table. So I do have 3 honorable mentions that almost made the list, probably should have made the list in a lot of people's opinions, but that's how it goes. Number 1 is the Puma TRC Blaze Court. Number 1 has tremendous bounce, a ton of pop, really nimble footwork, but just not as durable as some of the other shoes on this list. Number 2 in the honorable mentions would be the Nike LeBron 20. Honestly, these do most things really well. You know, the price on these is a little bit steep, and I think that's kind of what kept these off the list. I don't mind a higher price tag in a shoe if it gives you enough to justify that price tag. I just think the other shoes on this list that were around the same price point gave just a little bit more, but still the LeBron 20 is a phenomenal shoe. And the third is the Way of Wade 10. I mean, these things have made my top list before. They've been number 1 before. I actually think these are a good combined indoor and outdoor shoe. I think they do really well on outdoor courts, even though the razor pattern is a little bit thin. However, like I said, you know, there were just other shoes that for an indoor hardwood court, maybe were just a tad more nimble. And like I said, for these, I think these are a great combined indoor and outdoor shoe. So in terms of overall best shoes, yeah, the Way of Wade 10 is still up there. And honestly, could have made this list. Just right now, I just thought that there were 7 other shoes that just may have done things a little bit better for some different types of feet. And like I said, with all these great shoes out there, there's bound to be one that fits your specific playing style, foot type, and maybe injury or chronic condition you might be bringing to the basketball court. So if you want to see my ultimate guide for the best shoes for every foot type, game style, and chronic condition you might have, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam and hardwood. See you in the next one.